Let's do this. Welcome to 12 Days of Law Firm Growth, the show for law firm owners who are serious about growing their business, maximizing profits, and reaching their true potential. And now, let's get started.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
So 12 days of law firm growth.
Yep.
Let's first establish the guidelines here. This is going to be practical, profitable, no bullshit. We're not going to worry about being politically correct. We're just going to share some really actionable step-by-step information, advice, and resources, and answer all kinds of questions for thousands of solo and small law firm owners all over the country who are really serious about building a more successful law firm next year. I'll introduce myself later because you probably don't even care who I am yet until you find out whether and how I can help you. It's true. Why should they care who I am? Why should they give a shit who I am until they know how I can help them? And if I can't help them, then they really don't care. So let me just get to the premise of the show here, and then we will get to it, and then we can introduce ourselves later, and then they can decide whether they care who we are or not. So, I gotta explain a little bit who I am.
Please.
A little. I don't know how to explain what we're doing without explaining who I am a little bit. So, anyway,
Argon,
long story
explain a
short,
little bit,
I'm the
please.
founder of How to Manage a Small Law Firm. We manage over 600 of some of the most successful, fastest growing, most profitable, most amazing solo and small law firms you've ever even imagined or heard of. We are like the best kept secret in the world of small law firm management, but we manage over 600 law firms. Anyway, we decided to get in the holiday spirit. We decided to do a podcast or whatever this thing is called, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, something. We decided to do something and really get in the holiday spirit. And I asked different members of my team. I have about 150 employees, but I have my kind of like my team, Arjan. And I asked everyone just go into the vault of our old content and pick something that you think is really impactful that will help owners of small law firms have a better next year. And so every day for the next 12 days, we're going to be sharing some clips from the vault, and then we're going to talk about it and take your questions and stay on live with you. And as long as we got questions going and we're providing value. So
Within reason. Can I just say?
we'll see. I mean, listen, I did a happy hour that lasted 5 hours one time. We did a 5-hour marathon session of just bam, 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 solving problems, staffing problems, marketing problems, client conversion problems, how to get more referral problems, cash flow problems, more cash flow problems, more cash flow problems, profitability problems. I mean, we were just going on for 5 hours nonstop with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And it was just so much fun. And I think Allie was out of town or something. And so since she was out of town and Ty was with her, I was just like, I got nothing else to do. Let's keep going. And
Okay.
anyway, I don't know how I did it. I seem to recall not even taking a bathroom break, which is unusual for me.
I think it's because when
Anyway,
we get riled up about what you're excited talking about, then there's no stopping you.
so before you even introduce yourself, because if they don't care who I am, maybe they don't care who you are either. First, why did you pick the clip to help owners of small law firms have a better future? Why did you pick the clip? What's in it for them? Let's hook them with the benefit, and then we can talk about how great we are and who we are and what it's all about. And then we'll roll the clip, and then we'll talk about the clip, and then we'll ask questions.
Yes. So I think this clip will help lawyers solve their problems if they procrastinate doing things they don't enjoy doing in their firm, which I think for a lot of lawyers includes not looking at their firm numbers until it's too late. We see it time and time again. And this clip will help them solve that problem, which I think is a big problem and a great way to start off 12 days of law firm growth.
So you picked this clip. So just so we're clear, you went into the vault, right?
Yeah.
I've been I started in the world of small law firm management back in 1999. Shit, right? Back in 1999. I started how to manage a small law firm in first of all, back in 1999, I started at the Florida Bar's Law Office Management Assistance Service under the legendary J.R. Phelps. There is not a single person who has ever lived on the planet Earth who has helped more solo and small law firm owners build successful law firms than my mentor, J.R. Phelps of the Florida Bar Law Office Management Assistance Service, LOMAS. JR has passed. So I now say there's no other person alive today who's helped. And I'm not joking. We're talking tens of thousands of lawyers that I've worked with to help them start, market, manage, buy, sell, grow, you name it, solo and small law firms. And if you do the math, it's like tens of thousands. Florida bar records like stop at thousands. And that was a long time ago. Anyway, I've got a lot of video footage. I've got video footage from a million years ago, and so I asked the team to go back into the vault and just find something that you think is really great, that resonates with you, that speaks to you, that you would like to share with a lawyer who you personally give a shit about. What would be the clip that you would share? And so Delisi is going to share this clip, but first, your background. Just give a little bit of background on you. And while you're doing that, I'm going to adjust the thermostat because it is literally hot in my room. I don't know what is going on here in this office. I am sweating. I'll
It's
be
because 'cause you're
right back.
so excited
No,
about
I'm
this.
actually I'm
That's why
looking
I'm
at the thermostat. It says 74 degrees. I'm sweating.
okay. So while Arjan works on his thermostat, because it's just getting so hot in here, the background about me and why I'm here, how I ended up here, I have been in the legal industry since the day I was born. My father is a small law firm owner, and he became a lawyer the day I was born. Fun fact. Literally grew up in a law firm.
Are you saying that
So,
you actually got sworn in on your birthday?
yeah,
Wow.
it's lit it I will tell my mom it is the best day of my dad's life, and she can't say it's the day they got married. It's totally the day I was born and he became a lawyer. So this is obviously something I'm really passionate about when it comes to legal industry because I am the result of small law firm owners. So I see both sides of it because of who my dad is. And then I spent 7 years before working with you as the director of marketing and business development for an 8-figure firm that practices nationwide. And then I came to work with
Wait, wait, wait,
you.
hold on. That's not what you told me when I interviewed you. The way you
What
said
do you
when I interviewed you, actually asked the question and you said, when you started at the law firm, it was only about a $2 million firm.
It was a 7-figure firm, and I can proudly say I assisted with the growth to scale it to 8 figures.
I think that's really important. That was important for me when
It
I
is.
hired you way back when.
It is. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not one who likes to boast, but I'm very proud of that fact. It took a lot of hard work, and I learned a lot growing a firm from 7 figures to 8 figures. And I know you could talk about that all day long, as could I.
At least for 5 hours.
Maybe 4.
All right. So anyway, what clip did you pick? You said that you chose this clip because you felt it would help lawyers overcome procrastination. A
Mhm.
lot of law firm owners are not making as much money. Their law firm is not as profitable as it could be. I would argue not as profitable as it should be because they procrastinate. They wait, they delay. They know what they need to do. You know what you need to do, but you just don't do it.
Mhm.
And Delisi, you're saying this clip will help them get around to doing what they know they need to do, which not only will help them make more money, but keep them from going crazy.
100%. Yes.
All right. So I'm
Can we
kind of
tease the
I
clip
can
first?
I can
Can
kind
I
of guess
show
what the
it?
clip is. I'm sort of guessing what the clip. It's like
I don't think you
it's it's
can.
like it's like it's got to be in this kind of corner of the vault,
Okay.
but I don't know what clip it is. Let's see it.
Jennifer, can we show? Yes, look at that. Who is
Look
that
at that
Arjan
guy.
Robin?
Look at that guy.
First of
I hear
all,
laughing in the studio. I hear people cackling in the studio. Okay.
what is going on here? What are those books in the background? I have so many questions. Do you know where this is from?
Um 2012. I know it's 2012.
It is actually 2013, January, so I'll let you take that.
Okay.
January of 2013. Do you know where you are in
I
this
do.
clip?
I do. I know exactly where I was, and, I was I'll tell you why I know exactly why I was where I'll tell you how I know exactly where I was. I was at the Biltmore Hotel in, Coral Gables, Florida, at our live quarterly meeting. We run a live quarterly meeting, and the reason that I know exactly where that is because that is the only time I ever wore slacks at a live quarterly meeting. I always wear jeans, and for some reason that day I decided to wear a pair of dress slacks, and and for some weird reason that I remember that.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's actually exactly where you were. Um, when I was looking it up, I actually looked to see how many people were there because I know we have about 700 people who come to our live quarterly meetings now. So I wanted to know how many people were there back then in 2013. So if you had to guess,
Wouldn't have
how
been
many people?
um, you said January 2013?
Mhm.
Okay, I know that I'm guessing somewhere around 75 or 80, and the reason I know this is because the live quarterly meeting in Philadelphia, which I think was right after that one. I remember at that live quarterly meeting in Philadelphia, which was right after that one, I remember we had 85 people in the room, and it was the first time that I actually stood on a stage because I always stood on the floor, and in Philadelphia was the first time that we had so many people in the room and we had to put on a stage. And I just remember 85. It was like a big, like, oh my God, we're almost at 100. Now we're at like 700. Holy shit.
You were close. This was actually 56 people. So clearly something happened between January and April of
It might not
2013.
have been April in Philadelphia either. Anyway, well,
Yeah.
what happened is I was on the national CLE speaking tour. Microsoft, LexisNexis, LawPay, Ruby Receptionist, they sponsored me to go out on the road all over the country speaking to the national bar, speaking of bar associations. And I like lived on the road during those years speaking, and I was like constantly just boom, boom. I mean, we grew 10,000% in the last 10 years, so we were growing a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so anyway, the audience probably does not give a shit about any of this. They just want to know they want to learn how to stop procrastinating so they can make more money and they can stop making excuses. So let's do the clip. Wait. I forgot. Carly even made this song. This is the theme song for this.
Oh,
Ready?
yes.
On the first day of Christmas, my
Wait.
friends said how to. On the first day of Christmas, my friends said how to manage a small law firm taught me a practical working definition of whether my law firm is successful or not.
Good thing she's saying that, not me.
So Carly is the host of another podcast we have, which is not produced live. This one's live. That was not live. Called Profit First for Lawyers. So if you want to see Carly, Profit First for Lawyers. All right. So play the clip.
I have seen lawyers succeed in every practice area imaginable. And I have seen lawyers fail in every practice area imaginable. I've seen lawyers succeed who, on paper, should have been total failures. And I have seen lawyers fail who, on paper, they should have been total successes. Graduated from the best law school, got the best grades, worked tremendous hours, and still they fail. And because that is exactly what I was looking for, that is exactly what I found, the common denominator of success. The common denominator of success, the secret of success of every man who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that he formed the habit of doing things that the failures don't like to do. It's just as true as it sounds, and it's just as simple as it seems. You can hold it up to the light, you can put it to the acid test, you can kick it around until it's worn out, but when you are all through with it, it will still be the common denominator of success, whether you like it or not. It will still explain why men have come into this business of ours with every apparent qualification for success and given us our most disappointing failures, while others have come in and achieved outstanding success in spite of many obvious and discouraging disabilities. And since it will also explain your future, it would seem to be a mighty good idea for you to use it in determining just what sort of a future you are going to have. In other words, let's take this big, all-embracing secret and boil it down to fit the individual you. Because believe me, if I could just write a book and say, here's what you do to build a successful law firm, to take a successful law practice to $250,000 and then upgrade it to a sustainable law firm business that works for you without having to be there every day, every week, every month, and take it up to $500,000, and then break the 7-figure barrier, and then join the $1 Million Solo Lawyers Club. Believe me, if I could boil it all down to an article or a set of simple paint-by-paint instructions or a one-day workshop, I promise you, I would have arrived in my private helicopter, and I'd share it with you. The reason I can't is because each of you is an individual, and each of you has a different reason for wanting to be successful, and each of you has a different need to be successful, and each of you has a different definition for what successful means. The mechanical part of actually running the law firm is actually the easiest part of this whole challenge that we've got. It's figuring out what is going to make you happy. That is the challenge. That's the big deal of this. If the secret of success lies in forming the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do, then let's start the boiling down process by determining what are the things that failures don't like to do. The things that failures don't like to do are the very things that you and I and other human beings, including all of the most successful men, also naturally don't like to do. In other words, we've got to realize right from the start that success is something which is achieved by the minority of men and is therefore unnatural, and not to be achieved by following our natural likes and dislikes, nor by being guided by our natural preferences and prejudices.
Holy shit, do I wish I had said people instead of men. I mean, I was reading, that's what the article said. I mean, it was written in like the 1930s or something, but like failures think that, what did it say? Success is something that's not natural. Anyway, I should have said people. By the way, you know how old I was in that video? I did the math while we were waiting.
How old were you?
Take a guess.
Uh,
Don't do the
40?
math, just take a guess.
40.
42. I was 42.
That was close.
That was 2013. I was 42 years old back then. Holy shit. do I ever wish I could go back to that guy and like give him a freaking hug? I mean, I wish I could hug him and hold him and tell him, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because he was willing to do some pretty hard things. He was willing to do some things that were some pretty hard things that gave me this fucking amazing life I get to enjoy today. Anyway,
So actually,
so
now that
why'd you
you
pick
said
that
that,
clip? So you picked that clip because I mean, you gave us a little teaser about how that's going to help people with procrastination. Why did you pick that clip?
first, I picked that clip because I am a procrastinator. I don't enjoy doing certain things. It takes a lot in me to do things that I don't enjoy and that make me feel uncomfortable. But those are the things that I actually have to do. And when I don't do them, I'm not as successful. And we talked about who this was for. I gave the example of people who procrastinate looking at their numbers and not looking at them until they're too late. Because in the years that I've been in this industry, lawyers not looking at their numbers until it's too late is something I see time and time again. And that, in my opinion, is a problem I see repeatedly. And it's mainly because people don't enjoy doing it. Law firm owners don't enjoy looking at their numbers. They procrastinate what is unnatural and what they don't enjoy doing. If you
You know,
enjoy doing it, great.
you know, that article was originally written uh for salespeople.
Oh, really?
And it was originally written for salespeople in the insurance industry. And the basic idea there, the premise is failures love to say that people who are successful are lucky because they like to do the things. So here's how it goes. It's very rare that you're going to find a struggling law firm owner who honestly has no idea what they need to do to make their law firm better, right? They might not know everything they need to do. They might not know everything how to do it, but it's very, very rare. I mean, I've been doing this since 1999. We're talking tens of thousands of law firm owners. It's very, very rare that you meet someone who truly has no idea what they need to do, right? They'll be very often they'll be wrong. They'll think they should do one thing and they really should do something else, but they usually have some idea what they think they should do to make their law firm more successful. And they have a
Mhm.
reason why they're not doing it. They've got an excuse. They've got a story. They've got an explanation. And once you get your eye patch, you will be able to recognize when it's bullshit. You'll be able to recognize it and smell the bullshit a mile away. It's a very particular, when your daughter is getting you like trying to get you set up to do something that she wants you to do, how she's got like a particular tone in her voice, she has like a particular way about her, and like all like what's coming before a word comes out of her mouth. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
I've got to the point now where I know that what I'm about to hear is total bullshit because there's a particular tone. Bullshit has a particular tone. It has a particular vibration. There's a particular energy that bullshit has, and you can spot it. You can smell it. You can hear it. It's so obvious. And usually, so what happens is a lot of lawyers, they know what they should be doing, or at least they know what they think they should be doing, but they've got a story that explains and justifies and rationalizes why they're not doing it. And you can tell that it's bullshit because it's like, when you have like a witness in a deposition or a witness in trial and like their story is just like it's a little too well rehearsed. It's like
Yeah.
too well practiced. They're like too coached. You ever see those kind of
Mhm.
witnesses? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
The story is it's like it's too well developed. It's perfect.
Mhm.
right? And it's bullshit. And you scratch the surface just a little bit, and the whole story falls apart. Anyway, one of the stories that a lot of people have for why someone else is successful in their same industry, in their same market, but they themselves are not, is, oh, they're lucky because they like doing those things. They're lucky because they're good at that. Y'all, you get what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely excuses for not doing the things they should be doing.
As if anyone fucking loves doing half the shit we have to do to build a successful business. We don't like it, right? It's just that we're willing. I don't remember who said this, but the question that someone posed to me, I was broke. I was broke. And I had every fucking excuse you could possibly imagine. I was so full of bullshit, you couldn't even believe it. You didn't know me back then, but it was bad. I mean, I look back at those days, I'm like, holy shit, right? And I had every reason, and I had every story, and I had every excuse, and I had every explanation. The only thing that I couldn't explain is how I could be so right and so fucking broke. And one day I had to just decide to take all my excuses and shove them up my ass and do what I had to do. And a lot of what I had to do was I had to just do some stuff I didn't like doing. And so one of the questions that one of my early mentors asked me, he just was like basically like, Arjan, are you willing to live for a few years the way most people won't live? So you can live for the rest of your life the way most people can't even imagine living. And this is why I want to go back to that person you saw in that clip from 2013 and just hug him and thank him, because he could have said no. He could have made a story. He could have made an excuse. He could have got defensive. He could have had like a big time need to be right. He could have let his ego say, blah, 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 bullshit. But he had that moment of humility. He had that glimpse of a potential better life. And he had the courage to say, yes, I'm willing to do things for a few years that most people aren't willing to do so that I can give my future self the gift of a better life so me today, could live the way most people can't even imagine being able to live. And that's part of the reason why I said to you earlier, Delisi, that why these calls, when I do these live calls, sometimes they go on for hours and hours and hours, because I'm just so grateful to all, just paying it forward and paying it forward and paying it forward, because you know I get to live a life that, I mean, you've been to my home, you've been in my world, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to sit here bragging about all kinds of shit, but I get to live a life that most people can scarcely even imagine. And it's because so many people were caring and thoughtful and generous and courageous and were willing to call me on my bullshit in a constructive, helpful way. Anyway, yeah, you know, I got some stories. I've been around. By the way, you get that reference? Does
No, I
anyone get
don't.
that reference? You don't get any of my
Someone
references.
someone can post in the chat if they get that reference. I do not.
If there's
But
anyone who's super cool, they're gonna get the reference just by me saying, "I've been around," you know?
okay.
"I
So
was
let me
half the
ask
man I used to be. I take a flamethrower to this place." There,
I
I'm
s
not giving any more clues.
I still don't get it.
Yes, you need to watch more television and more movies. Um, anyway,
I read a lot of the books you tell me to read because they always are very helpful. We
thank
should
you.
start a book club.
I did start a book club.
Oh, well, we should do
I
it
started
again.
a book club at my son's school. Starts in January. Anyway, here's the point that I was trying to get to. Um, I have personally experienced having more people than I can count attempt to write off explain away, dismiss, justify, rationalize why I was willing, why I got lucky that I was willing to do and could do the things that they s- disempower themselves with their bullshit excuses that they can't do. I mean, some of the things people say, it's insane. It's crazy. It doesn't even it's like they say it and like you want to say, did you actually hear what just came out of your mouth? Do you realize what you just said?
So,
How stupid
well,
that
so
sounds?
help everyone who's listening right now recognize that BS that you've heard time and time again, because sometimes it's harder to recognize you're saying it until someone calls you out on your BS. And you do that all the time, but not everyone does. Sometimes there are enablers out there who hear the BS, they listen to it, and they do nothing. So if I'm listening, help me understand what are some examples of those BS excuses you hear all the time.
I mean, pretty much anytime you hear the word I can't, what's gonna follow is bullshit. I mean, that's like your number one red flag. Anything that follows I can't is almost always bullshit. There. How's that? Try saying I can't. I mean, other than something like I can't sprout wings and fly. Okay, I mean, but like let's deal with reality. Like in a business setting, I'll limit it to a business setting just so we don't have people coming up with
Yeah,
crazy examples, right?
I'll give
I
you an
can't hold my
example.
breath for 15 minutes underwater. You gonna say that's bullshit? Congratulations, you won the argument with a moronic example. You're still broke. You want a prize for it? Anyway,
So,
most
yeah, let me give you an example.
yeah,
I'll
try
give you
try to say
one.
something in a business setting that starts with "I can't" that isn't bullshit.
I can't
I would challenge everyone watching us, live or recorded, to
I'm
write
gonna try
in.
something.
You could try anything. It's
Okay,
just gonna be bullshit.
okay.
Alright, let's hear it.
I can't look at my
Bullshit!
firm's financials because I'm not an accountant. I can't look at my firm's financials because I paid someone to do it for me.
That doesn't mean you can't, it means you choose not to. There isn't like a law that puts you in jail by looking at your financials just because you don't have a CPA behind your name.
Okay, I hear this one all the time. I can't hire a paralegal. I just can't find them. I've heard that thousands of times.
Well, you might be making choices every single morning when you wake up. Every single day, you might wake up and make a choice not to make it a priority to learn how to recruit, recruit, onboard, train, manage, and make a profit with an amazing A plus, A player paralegal. You might wake up every day and choose not to make it a priority to learn how to do that. But that doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means you keep making choices not to learn how to do it. Or you keep making choices not to execute on what you say you know how to do. Because if you were doing it, you'd get the result. The fact that you're not getting the result tells me you're either not acting on what you know how to do that works, or you don't know how to do it. But since there's literally hundreds of thousands of small law firm owners all over the country in every practice area and every market, large and small, who are recruiting, onboarding, managing, training, and making a profit with their paralegals every single year, that proves pretty conclusively that it can be done. Now, they may know how to do something that you don't know how to do. They might be willing to do some things you're not willing to do, but you can't say it can't be done. And if it can be done by all of those other lawyers, there's no reason it can't be done by you.
Yeah. What's standing in your way?
Your excuses, your stories, your bullshit.
So
Because
all of
because
those things.
successful people are the common denominator of success, which is what that whole article is about. Which, by the way,
Mhm.
that article you can find it online. Anyone, you can just search "The Common Denominator of Success" by Albert Gray, Gray, and you can find the original manuscript. Um, the basic idea is that failures are simply unwilling to do the things that successful people are willing to do. And successful people, they don't they don't necessarily like to do those things any more than failures like to do the things. We're just willing to do it because having a successful life is more important to us. It's a bigger priority for us than the short-term temporary discomfort. And usually the discomfort is more embarrassment than anything else. We're willing to be embarrassed. We're willing to look stupid. We're willing to do it badly in the beginning so that we can do it better the second time, so we can do it better the third time, so we can do better the 10th time. So that, look, if the 10th time you do something, you don't look back and see the first time you did it and think that was really horrible and primitive and embarrassing, then you probably waited too long. I mean, I look back at that clip and like, "Ugh," I said he and men, and I should have said people and they, and like,
So let me ask you a question. We talk about success in the clip, and we want to have everyone who's watching this walk away with a practical working definition of whether their law firm is successful or not. But you can't actually do that until you define success. And whenever you and I talk about success, because we talk about it very frequently, you talk about success in three different categories. So I would love to hear you talk about what those three categories are, because you can't define success so vaguely. You really do have to talk about success in three different categories
you
and
don't
then apply
have
that to
to.
your law firm.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of struggling lawyers are proof that you don't have to because they don't. And that's a big part of the reason why they're struggling.
Mhm.
Um, all right. So you want me to do my little shtick on the definition of a successful law firm?
I do. Yes.
All right. So this is the beginning of the talk that has gotten me uninvited to dozens of bar associations all over this country. The talk starts like this. Um, Starts off with, what's the biz? So you got to play the audience for me, okay?
Okay. All right.
So no, don't play the audience because you know the answer. So you're gonna fuck up my whole little shtick because you won't get it wrong. So I've done this talk to like thousands of lawyers. I for 2000, the last part of 2010, all of 2011, all of 2012, and half of 2013. I spent more nights on the road at the on the national CLE speaking tour with LexisNexis, Microsoft, Ruby Receptionist, LawPay, and all them, going all over the country to bar associations and law schools, uh, doing this talk about how to build a successful law firm. And dozens of these bar associations uh, invited me never to come back again because so look, we would get they would get me booked, and they would say, look, uh, after you do a CLE talk, they always give like a one of those little things you fill in, one
Oh
through
yeah.
five rating scale, whatever it's
Yeah.
called,
Survey.
right? And they would say, look, this speaker, you got to understand, you're going to get a five. His scores are going to be a five, but you got to be prepared to understand that half the audience is going to give him a 10, and half the audience is going to give him a 1. And you got to be prepared to decide whether you care more about really, really, really meeting the needs of some of your members who are going to say this is the greatest CLE talk they've ever had and it's going to change their life? Or are you going to kowtow to the members who are going to say this is the worst talk ever? And you got to make a decision right now before we book it because we don't want to hear your bullshit afterwards complaining. And the CLE directors would always like laugh it off, blah, 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 blah. But I get fives every time, right? Tens and ones, nothing in the middle. That's why I have so many clips recorded, because I started bringing a video camera to record myself because they would literally say that I said things that I absolutely didn't say. And I had to like prove it. I was like, this is the recording. This is me saying the exact opposite of what they wrote down that I said. Like, this isn't he said, she said. This isn't my word against their word. Here's the recording of me saying the exact opposite of what they said I said. Anyway, so people get triggered like crazy with this conversation. And there's probably people who are to drop off of this live, whatever we're doing.
Next
because
time we'll
of
have
what
a disclaimer.
No, you don't have to have a disclaimer. You just need to understand that you can watch the people who are watching live, and you're going to watch people drop off in just a few minutes because
Okay,
some people are going to get triggered like crazy by this. Ready?
do it. I'm ready.
Okay. So it starts off with, what's the business of a law firm? And people in the audience, they raise their hand, and I go around the audience. What's the business of a law firm? What's the business of a law firm? What's the business of a law firm? And they always answer things like, the business of a law firm is to protect people's rights. That's not the business of a law firm. They say things like, the business of a law firm is to enforce the law. That's not the business of a law firm. They say the business of a law firm is to bring justice to their clients. That's not the business of a law firm. They say the business of a law firm is to make money. That's not the business of a law firm. They say that they confuse the job of the lawyer with the business of the law firm. These are two very different things. And so after 5 or 6 minutes of them just fumbling around and demonstrating that they don't understand the difference between the job of the lawyer versus the business of the law firm, I would say, okay, let's talk about something different. What's the business of a restaurant? And usually they would figure out pretty quickly what the business of a restaurant is. What's the business of a hotel? Oh, they would say the business of a restaurant is to serve food. And I'd say, well, I mean, I had a dinner party the other day and I had some friends over and we served them some food. Does that make my house a restaurant? Two people are already starting to drop off because they're getting upset. And I'd say, no, that's not what makes it a restaurant. Well, it's a restaurant because they sell food. Restaurants sell food. That's the business of a restaurant. The business of a Ruth Chris Steakhouse, for example, and the business of a McDonald's, it's the same business. They sell and deliver food. Now, they have different strategies for how they're going to market the food. They have different strategies for how they're going to sell the food. They have different strategies for how they're going to deliver the food, right? But they're the same business. You boil it all down, they're in the business of selling food. Restaurants are in the business of selling food. Hotels are in the business of renting rooms. Law firms are in the business of selling and delivering legal services. That's the business of a law firm. At which point you get a bunch of lawyers who are like, I didn't go to law school to be in business. I went to law school to do great work, and I went to law school to protect people's rights, and I went to law school to practice law. And that's great. That's like the world's greatest chef who goes to work in a restaurant that's owned by an entrepreneur that's willing to run it like a real business. Just because you're a great chef doesn't mean you should be running a law firm. It doesn't mean you should be running a restaurant. The business of the restaurant is to sell and deliver food. The job of the chef is to cook the food. The business of a law firm is to market, sell, and it's to sell and deliver legal services. The job of the lawyer is to work for the law firm and produce the legal services that the business is selling and delivering. And they were pissed. Okay. Then we get to the next part that really freaked them out, because that just was the warm up, right?
Okay.
Then I say, okay, so how many of you started your business? Because we get to a point where they acknowledge that it's a business. Great. Okay, it's a business. I didn't realize I had a business, but I have a business. Okay. How many of you started your business? And you have to imagine I'm standing up and I have my hands behind my back, right?
Okay.
And
Why?
I say, now, how many of us started our business by committing some embezzlement? And I would raise my hand.
Why?
Well, the definition of embezzlement is when you are entrusted with resources and you misappropriate those resources, right?
Oh, IOLTAs.
So,
Yeah.
so my wife, my family entrusted me with resources of the household, which I misappropriated and used recklessly, carelessly, and irresponsibly. And everyone would look at me like, yeah, well, you're a stupid asshole and we're better than you. And I say, okay, well, let me ask you this. How many of us would ever recommend or advise or even allow one of our clients to invest their time, invest their money, invest their credit, invest their reputation in a restaurant that's being run by the world's greatest chef without a marketing plan, without a sales plan, without or any written recipes, without any instructions for how any parts of the restaurant are supposed to work, without a budget, without any financial controls, without understanding the cost of delivering the meals? How many of us would allow, would recommend, allow, permit one of our clients to invest in a restaurant being run by the world's greatest chef, who is the most honest person in the world, who you know is willing to work their ass off, but without a written plan that explains how any parts of the restaurant are actually supposed to work? And everyone says, well, no one would do that. No one would do that. That would be crazy. That would be, and I say, why? Why wouldn't you let your best client invest in that restaurant? And inevitably, someone in every bar and every audience, someone can always be trusted to raise their hand and say, because it would fail. Obviously, it would fail. How could it not fail? And I say, well, how many of us, myself included, said to our families, you can trust me with the with family money. You can trust me with family credit. You can trust me with family resources. I'm gonna I'm gonna invest it in a business called a law firm, but I don't have a business plan. I don't have a marketing plan. I don't have a sales plan. I don't have any documented processes and systems and procedures for how anything's supposed to get done. I don't have any financial controls. I don't have a budget. But trust me, I work really, really hard and I'm a great lawyer. No one's going to say that because it's fucking stupid. Because you know it's going to fail. So instead, what we do, myself included, is we lie to our families and we don't tell them what they need to know. We don't sit down with our family and say, I'm starting a business. The business is a law firm. It's going to market and sell and deliver legal services, which we're going to get paid for more than what it costs to deliver. And that's how it's going to make us a financial profit. Except I'm going to do it without a business plan, without a marketing plan, without a sales plan, without any financial controls, without any documented processes and systems and procedures. And oh, by the way, I've never taken a single class in my life about the business of running a law firm. We don't say that to our families because we know if we did, they would say no fucking way. Now, I don't curse when I'm at bar associations. That's not why I got not invited back. But you hold a mirror up to people's faces and they don't like what they see, right? Because it's the truth. So I've posed this question to thousands and thousands and thousands of lawyers all over the country. Men, women, gay, straight, tall, short, some left-handed, some right-handed, some like chocolate ice cream, some every practice area, big cities, small towns, you name it. And I say, would you ever, would you agree that in order to call a law firm, any kind of a business successful, it has to at least make enough profit for you to live the way you want to live? And they say, yeah, if it's not making enough profit for you to live the way you want to live, it could be a lot of great things, but a successful business isn't one of them, right? So, my first element of the definition of a successful law firm is, does it generate enough net income? Does it generate enough total owner benefits for you to live the way you want to live? If your law firm generates enough total owner benefits for you to live the way you want to live, we can check one thing off the box. We can check off one box. One of three elements are now satisfied. At least you can call it financially successful. Second thing, would you call it a successful business if it gave you enough income to live the way you want it to live, but you have to work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it makes you a stranger to your family and it burns you out? And the minute you step away, the whole thing falls apart or starts to fall apart. Would you call that a successful business? Would you allow one of your family or friends or clients to invest in a business that makes a whole lot of money, except the minute the owner steps away, boom, it's going to start falling apart? Of course not. It has to serve you personally. It has to serve you financially, and it has to serve you personally. One out of the other isn't enough. And the third element of a successful law firm is it has to serve you professionally. Because lawyers, we went to law school pretty much most of us, because lawyers don't like to admit it, but most of us went to law school because we're nice people. We want to help people. We want to make the world a better place. We want to put our positive dent into this universe. That's the reason that most of us went to law school, was to really try to do good for people. And if your law firm can only make a financial profit, so you take a law firm that makes $1 million of total owner benefits. Forget about $1 million gross revenue. $1 million of total owner benefits. $1 million of income for you. Terrific. And you can take off for 30, 60, 90 days at a time with emergency access only. And while you're gone, the marketing keeps working, the sales keeps working, the staff keeps working, everything keeps working in the business. So when you come back, your business is still going and maybe even growing while you're gone. So it's serving you financially and it's serving you personally. But it requires you to do work you hate for clients you despise. Would you consider that to be a successful business? I've never met any lawyer who said yes. I've never met any lawyer who said genuinely, I mean, sometimes they just want to argue and say, well, of course it is, but they don't mean it. To be successful, your law firm has to serve you financially. It has to serve you personally. It has to serve you professionally. It has to give you enough total owner benefit for you to live the way you honestly, sincerely know in your heart you want to be living in the kind of house you want to be living in, not the kind of house you're willing to settle for, to be driving the car you want to be driving, not the car you're willing to settle for, to take the vacations you genuinely, honestly want to be taking, not to just take vacations that you're willing to settle for, to give your children the kind of education that you want to give them, not just the education that you can justify, rationalize, explain away, and settle for, to employ the kind of domestic services you honestly know you want to employ, not just make excuses, and scrub your own toilet while you lie to your clients about what you're doing instead of working on their cases. It's got to give you enough total owner benefit that your W-2 salary, your K-1 profits, and and everything you run through the business for tax strategy purposes to live the way you really want to be living, which first requires you to have the courage to really answer the question. This is the hardest part of building a $10 million law firm. The hardest part of building a $10 million law firm. The hardest part of building a $1 million law firm. The hardest part of building a $500,000 law firm. The hardest part of building a successful law firm is really being honest with yourself about how you honestly, genuinely, sincerely want to be living. Having the courage to acknowledge, even just to yourself, this is how I really want to live. And then figuring out how much it costs to live that way. That's the hardest part of the whole thing. Once you get that straight, the rest of it is relatively simple. I promise you. So, anyway, that's the definition of a successful law firm. Serves you financially, serves you personally, serves you professionally. And you can go back, and if you can define how much it costs to live the way you actually genuinely and sincerely want to live, and how many weeks you want to be able to take off with emergency access only, and how many hours per week you want to be averaging in the firm. There will be ups and downs, right? I mean, but on average, how many hours per week you want to be averaging in the business? And professionally, how do you want your law firm to really make a positive impact in the world? And then quantify it with objective key performance indicators. Well, now you can't make excuses. Now you can't bullshit yourself as to whether you're making progress or not making progress. And this is why most people won't do this, because as soon as you define success and quantify your definition of success, there's nowhere to hide. Your law firm is either successful or it's not successful. Your law firm is either making progress towards being more successful or it's moving away from being more successful. Scary,
It
really
is.
scary. I've been there.
Yeah.
I had to do it for myself. It's scary, but it's empowering.
And I
Have we
think
talked
this
about I haven't seen, have we told them about how to get the business plan workbook?
No, I was gonna say for everyone who's listening to this and thinking, "Okay, I really do need to define success and what success is for my law firm." We have an exercise in a workbook. We can share it. We can post the link down below for anyone who wants to go there, and share that workbook with you. So after this session, you can really sit down and decide what is my definition of success for my law firm because it's going to be different for everyone and you can't accomplish that goal unless you define that goal and you define what success looks like for you. To your point, Arjan, personally, professionally, and financially, I don't believe your law firm can be successful unless it hits all three. I can tell you, my father, who's been practicing law for almost 40 years, his law firm is a success financially. I never had to worry about a meal. Professionally,
Wait, wait,
and
wait. Wait, hold on, hold
personally.
on. Wait, wait. I know he's your dad and you love him, but not having to worry about a meal is a pretty low standard.
Okay, I am being a little humble.
If we were
I
sitting
will
down with your dad to say, how do you really, honestly, truly want to be living? If price were no object, what house would you be living in? If price were no object, where would you be living and what house would you be living in? If price were no object, what car would you be driving? If price were no object, what education would you be providing for your children? If price were no object, what kind of vacations would you be taking? If price were no object, what kind of domestic services would you employ? What sort of charitable work would you do? If the law firm generates enough income to live that way, then it's financially successful. Doesn't mean that
yes,
it's a disaster if it doesn't, but let's have the courage to really define what the standard is. Now, you might not know what his real number is, but I'm pretty sure that making sure my children aren't starving is the floor. That's table stakes. It's not
okay,
the goal.
That is the floor. If my father were here and he was on this show, I would tell him I would much rather him have been more present in my life and not fighting all the fires because he did it without enough help. Because he was always the sponsor at the back of my softball t-shirts for his law firm, but he was never at the softball game. I would much rather my father have been with me than sponsoring my shirts. Sorry.
Well, both.
That's
How
hard to
about both?
say.
What?
That's really hard to say out loud.
Yeah. There's lawyers watching this who need to understand that this is exactly how their children feel. I mean, you see my calendar. You see what
Yeah.
goes on my calendar first. I mean, what goes on my calendar first is my priorities.
I think there are a lot of lawyers out there like my dad who don't do that. They think about the firm professionally and financially, but I don't think they take enough time to think about it personally.
The law firm has to serve you financially and personally and professionally. And by the way, this business plan that we're sharing with you all, we manage over 600 of some of the most successful, most profitable, fastest growing solo and small law firms. We've got firms from 0 to 250,000, 250,000 to 500,000, 500 to a million. We've got probably a couple of hundred of our lawyers. At least 200 of our lawyers are a million, 2 million, $5 million. We got a bunch of $10 million law firms, every practice area you can possibly imagine. And one of the things we do with every single one of them is we start off with helping them develop a written business plan. You wouldn't take a case to trial without a trial plan. You wouldn't do a deposition, I hope, without a deposition plan. You wouldn't start working on a complex case without a written work plan. I mean, if you do, now you know how to make your life a lot better by doing those things. You ought not spend all of next year of your life. It's the holidays, it's the end of the year, it's December, it's the 12 days of law firm growth in December here. You ought not invest the whole next year of your life working in a law firm without investing the time for yourself, for your family, for your future self to at least sit with this resource that we're sharing with you for free at howtomanageasmalllawfirm.com/12 days and download the business plan and just work it and use it.
Yep.
It'll make a huge difference in your life. It'll make a huge difference in your business.
So if you are good with this, we do have a couple of questions in the chat, and if people have questions, I'd like to give you a chance to answer them. Sir, are you good with answering a couple of those
Yeah, I,
questions?
I, I was just rambling on till you
Yeah.
interrupted me, so I can go or stop. I'm good.
All right. So we have Maddie here who is asking, I am procrastinating outlining the onboarding process for a new associate. Are there some suggestions for things we should have outlined for them to do during that onboarding period?
This has got to be one of our members. It has to be one of
I
our
don't
members.
know.
Out of 100,000 law firm owners, how many of them even know that they should create an onboarding plan? All of our members know they should do an onboarding plan. They have templates, they have resources, they have examples, they've got free workshops they can go to. They can turn to. All right. So what's the question again?
So Maddie is procrastinating outlining the onboarding process for a new lawyer he's bringing on. What are some suggestions to outline what they should be doing in that onboarding process?
For a paralegal?
No, for an associate.
For
Let's
an
call him
associate.
a baby lawyer.
All right. Well, it doesn't first of all, don't hire baby lawyers.
Oh, that's a whole episode. That could
There's a
be a
whole
whole
episode.
episode.
Don't hire baby lawyers. Grown-up lawyers they cost more, but they're far less expensive. Expense and expensive do not mean the same thing. Lots of struggling lawyers confuse the definition of the word expense with the definition of the word expensive, and it ends up costing them a fortune. Anyway, okay, so how to outline, what's the outline for an onboarding plan for a new associate?
Yep. What are some ideas?
Okay, so there's 3 tracks. There's 3 parts to the onboarding process. So here at How to Manage a Small Law Firm, we have we provide fractional CEO, fractional COO, fractional CFO, and fractional CMO services. So we function as the CEO for over 600 law firms. And when we hire a new CEO to come work with us, we run them through, in our case, we run them through 7 weeks of training and onboarding before we set them loose with any of our members. I'm not saying you have to invest 7 weeks, but please invest at least a few weeks to set your new employees up for success, to set yourself up for success with your new employees. There's 3 tracks. One is history, culture, values. What are the values of your firm? What is the philosophy of your firm? What is your point of view? So we have this thing called our statement of values, right? Where we talk about what we stand for, what we believe in, what we stand against. Um, and you got to invest some time teaching them about your values. Give them books to read. Give them book report assignments to write. Block time in your week, in the first 2 weeks, to sit with them and talk to them about the books that you asked them to read, and review the book reports to see if they're taking the messages and taking the lessons and taking the points you want them to take from these books. Otherwise, you could potentially be setting someone loose in your business, and setting someone loose with your clients who does not share your values, who does not share your philosophies, who does not share your point of view about the world, who does not share your standards. And that could be disastrous for your reputation and for your relationship with your clients. So invest in teaching them, training them, and quizzing them to make sure they really do share your values. And you're not going to find this out from just 1 or 2 interviews before you hire them. You got to give them time to read the books that you want them to read, to watch the videos you want them to watch, to reveal how they really see the world. And if they read one of these books that you believe in, that really means a lot to you, that taught you something, that expresses your values or your point of view, and they read this book and they come away with a completely bizarrely, irreconcilably insane, different interpretation of what it means, do not, I don't care if you just hired the person, do not let them anywhere close to your clients. You're gonna regret it. It's like letting a fox loose in the hen house. They're gonna wreak havoc with your clients. They're gonna wreak havoc with the rest of your staff. They're going to do damage to your reputation. Track number 1. Track number 2, very simple. Track number 2, you have office equipment, you have software, you have a filing system, you have certain processes and procedures for how you do things around the office. Please invest 2 weeks to let them know, to require them to take the tutorial on your law office management software. Take the tutorial on your phone system. Take everything's on YouTube these days. Everything's a tutorial, right? Take the tutorial on your software. Take the tutorial on your phone system. Take the tutorial on your copy machine and your scanners. Give them a lesson and then test them on your filing system to make sure they don't get in there and fuck up your whole fucking filing system. Holy shit, I'm still cleaning up the mess from some asshole who I let loose with my filing system 5 years ago, and I didn't train him right on it, and he fucked the whole thing up, and I'm still finding shit that's misfiled. Train them on this stuff. Invest 2 weeks. You're expecting this person to work for you for the next 4, 5, 6 years. Invest 2 weeks to set them and you up for success. If after 2 weeks they still can't work the software after they go through all the trainings and tutorials, they still can't work your filing system after they go through all the training and all the tutorials, you really want to let that person work unsupervised? I mean, like, really? Bad idea. That's track 2. Track 3 is give them fake work to do. Take some old cases that are done and give them whatever, it depends on the practice area, obviously, but there's some kind of information that you received from the client that caused you to take the first step in the case. Recreate that information and give it to them and see what they do with it. And then, maybe if it's an adversarial proceeding, opposing counsel took some sort of action in response. That response that opposing counsel took, it's in the file. Take it out of the file and give it to them and say, this is what opposing counsel did in response, and see what they say, see what they do. And you literally have them do a few cases for you in that first 2 or 3 weeks. You can shortcut the cases, right? So if a typical case, you file something and then you got a 45-day response and then a 30-day wait period, and I mean, you can condense that entire case into a week. They can do 5 cases in a week, start to finish, and you can find out if they actually know what they're talking about, or did they just do a good job of bullshitting their way through the interview and pulling the wool over your eyes. Find this stuff out in the first 2 or 3 weeks before you set them loose with your clients, before you set them loose with the rest of your staff, before you set them loose with your reputation. Delisi.
I was actually going to say, in addition to that, I consider success
But
finding
that
out.
seems like so much work. I'm not willing to do it. You're lucky. The reason that you have a
Oh,
multi-million-dollar law firm that works that works while you're gone for 30, 60, 90 days at a time with emergency access only. The reason that you're earning $1 million a year in total owner benefits and can be away from the firm for a month at a time with emergency access only is because you got lucky. No, you asshole. I was just willing to do exactly what I just told you to do. Do it also. You can do it. You don't need fancy technology. Doesn't cost any money. You see this? You see this? What is this? This is called a pen. And this is called paper. You write words on the paper to document your procedures. This is how you do it. I promise you, anyone can do this. Most people won't, but anyone can.
thank you. I would also add to that, I consider success finding out during that onboarding process who is definitely not going to work out in the business.
Well, yeah, you find out who's not going to work out in the business because you give them the book to read that means a lot to you, and they think it's terrible. And like, this book expresses what's in my heart. This book expresses what's in my soul. This book is what this whole law firm is based on, is the ideas in this book. And they say this book is garbage. Oh, well, let me introduce you to all my clients since you disagree with my whole point of view of life. No, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You give them the filing system training. You've tested the file system training by teaching it to a reasonably intelligent teenager, and they were able to understand the instructions. But this person who went to law school and claims to have been practicing law for 10 years can't. And after they prove to you that they can't understand the basic instructions of a filing system that any reasonably intelligent teenager can follow, after they've demonstrated to you that they can't understand this or don't care enough to pay attention, you're going to let them loose in one of your files with one of your clients? Are you crazy?
Yeah. The worst thing, I hated it whenever a lawyer at my old firm didn't work out, and then you're going through the cases trying to figure out where you reassign the cases, and then you find the mistakes over and over and over. But it takes you so long to find them because they were making all those mistakes in your firm for way longer than you realized. Um,
And by the time you fire a person, almost always you should have fired them a lot sooner.
yes.
I see another
Yes.
question.
Yes, let's go to Valerie. Valerie's question: can I grow a seven-figure law firm if I don't want to do or even offer litigation? Ooh, good
Absolutely.
question.
Yes.
Could she do that with a
Oh,
pre-lit
oh,
firm?
yes, 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 yes. Litigation. We've got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of multi-million dollar law firm that don't do litigation. 100% yes. 1,000,000% yes. Yes, a
Yeah,
million times over.
I second that. Those used to
We've
be
got
some of my best referral
multi-million dollar
partners.
immigration firms. We got multi-million dollar intellectual property firms. We got multi-million dollar business transaction firms. We got multi-million dollar, um, did I say intellectual
Personal
property
injury.
fighting? Sorry?
Personal injury.
Well,
Personal
that's
injury.
litigation. They're gonna call that litigation.
Oh, you can do
Technically,
a
that's
pre-lit
litigation.
without going to litigation with
Yeah,
personal
but
injury?
that's a you can't say you have a personal injury law firm, but it's not a litigation firm. It better be a litigation firm.
We're gonna agree to disagree on that.
You better be willing to litigate if you're gonna have personal injury law firm.
I would argue you better be able to partner with a law firm that specializes in litigation that will carry all of the heavy case expenses and work it up to go to trial. And then you focus on the pre-lit. So, Valerie, the answer is yes. You
The
can
answer is
most
yes.
definitely.
The answer is yes. Estate planning. Oh my God, how many multi-million dollar estate planning law firms do we have? I can't even remember.
Yeah. Yeah. One more question. It's not in the chat, but we're on the topic of success and defining success and what that means personally, professionally, financially, and regarding your law firm. How often should you be going through that workbook and doing the exercise to see, has my definition of success changed? And if we can put that link up again, please, so everyone
I
who is
mean,
arriving a little later can read it.
look, I personally go and get an annual physical every year. I go and get an annual physical every year because I am madly in love with my 8-year-old son, because I'm madly in love with my son. I go and get a annual physical every year because I'm madly in love with my son, and I wanna be around for a long, long time for him, and I wanna be vibrant and relevant and active in his life. That is why I get an annual physical every year. I didn't used to get an annual physical, by the way, before I became a father, but now that I'm a father, I take my health very, very seriously because of him. Um, I I see to it, I don't do it myself, but the air conditioning filters in my home are changed every quarter, whether they need to be or not. Um, I'm trying to think of other examples of things that you just put it on a schedule. You just put it on a schedule. You put it on. I would recommend you revisit your goals at least once a year. Come on. Obviously, at least once a year. I revisit it every quarter. Every 90 days, every quarter, I sit down and I revisit my financial goals, I revisit my personal goals, I revisit my professional goals. But then again, my business grows really, really fast, much faster than most. Now, chicken or the egg. I believe that one of the one of the things that causes my business to grow as fast as it does is precisely because I revisit my goals and my priorities, and I revisit my business plan and my strategic priorities every quarter. And we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of some of the fastest growing law firms in the country. And we revisit their financial goals, we revisit their personal goals, we revisit their professional goals, we revisit their strategic priorities every 90 days, no matter what. And I believe that is a big part of what causes them to grow and keep growing and keep growing year after year after year after year after year. Causes lead to effects. I think the beneficial, positive, profitable effect of growth is caused by what we focus on, what we give attention to, what we demonstrate our priorities to be. That's my
I would
answer.
agree with that. I would agree with that. Um, Thank you very much for answering that question. I would love to know what we are going to talk about tomorrow. Do
I
you by
don't know what
any
we're gonna talk about tomorrow. I have
You
no
have a
idea.
clip. Carly
Oh,
sang the song where we tease the next day's clip. You don't know what the clip is, but the
that's
topic
why
and the
are you
lesson.
asking me what tomorrow's lesson is? Because I don't know.
You don't know the lesson or the clip, but you have a soundbite from Carly singing our little song that we could play. We don't have to play it right now. I don't know if there's anything else you just want to button up with regards to everyone who's here to have a practical working
How
definition of
to
whether.
protect and defend your standards. That's gonna be tomorrow, apparently.
Yes.
All right. So we'll play the clip. We'll play Carly's song now.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
All right. So play it.
You have it. This is why it's live.
My friends that how to manage a small law firm taught me how to protect and defend my standards so my staff doesn't eat me alive. And a practical working definition of whether my law firm is successful or not.
I feel like I need a little jingle at the end, like a ticka ticka
First
tee.
day of Christmas, my friends that how to manage a small law firm taught me how to protect and defend my standards so my staff doesn't eat me alive. And a practical working definition of whether my law firm is successful or not.
Should we play that one more time?
No.
First day of Christmas, my friends that how to manage a small law firm taught me how to protect and defend my standards so my staff doesn't eat me alive. And a practical working definition of whether my law firm is successful or not.
Are you able to understand what she's saying?
We should totally play the song maybe tomorrow if we can do it and have like the words come up on on the screen. And then by the end of our 12 days of law firm growth, everyone is going to have that song stuck in their head and it will be
Burned
amazing.
in their brain.
Yes. They
So
will
it's
sing it in the
it's how
car.
to protect and defend my standards so that my staff doesn't eat me alive. That's tomorrow. So I'm curious what clip you're gonna play.
And I'm not going to tell you because then it would be way less fun.
Good, because I'd rather be surprised.
Okay, good.
Are we done? No more questions?
We are done. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see all of you tomorrow.
I feel like there's something else we need to tell them all about. We said the podcast, Profit First for Lawyers.
Yeah, if someone wants to put in the chat the link to the podcast, that's a great show. You can listen on any major platform where you listen to podcasts, profitfirstforlawyers.com.
And that's based on
And
the book,
it
Profit
is
First
based
for
on the book.
Lawyers.
Mhm. It is, yes.
Written by
And then
me.
we also we also put in the chat the link to that free resource. Again, we are happy to share it with anyone who wants to do the exercise tonight or over the next few days to help you define what success is for your law firm.
And let's say this also, if anyone wants to join us tomorrow and you have any questions about the business of running a law firm, your law firm, anything you want to know. We could spend more time answering questions and less time bantering.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And then thank you're welcome to everyone who keeps putting in the chat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know how to end. What do I just turn off my computer? What do I do?
I think that's it. Do we have like some exit music or something, Jennifer? I don't know. This is how you know it's live, y'all.